Colorado has a huge problem on defense. How do they fix it? We're going to ask one of Deion Sanders' former players.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Joining me today is Jordan Domineck, former Colorado Buffalo, former Arkansas Razorback, and former Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. Excuse me, Jordan. We're going to be talking about Colorado's defensive problems. We're going to be talking about Kaden Salter's sort of, I guess, come to Jesus moment that helped him turn things around. And then we're going to talk about what a win over a top 25 team does, because that's exactly how your tenure with the Buffs started. So let's dive into the defensive problems. And it's mostly a defensive problem because Colorado's defense, it's struggling this year. They were one of the most impressive units, I would say. Last year, they ranked 110th in total defense, and then in rushing defense, which is where I think most of the issues come, they rank 121st. So they're allowing 194 yards rushing per game, 4.5 yards per carry, and it's just been something that teams have sort of picked on them with. How does that get better?
Honestly, it starts up front with the defensive line. The defensive line isn't getting enough pressure and push on the offensive line from what I've seen. They've shown spurts in the moment where they're able to shoot into the backfield and make plays, and they have the talent to be able to do that. But it's just not a consistent thing with them where they're applying complete pressure to the offensive line, stopping the offensive line from where they wanted to go. And they're playing I'll give it some good running backs at the time, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to be able to cut the field off. You need to be able to hold your own when it comes to playing the offensive line, whether you're interior or on the edge. You can't just be on the field just to rush the passer. Everybody wants sacks. Everybody wants, TFLs, losses, but you have to be willing to do the dirty work as well. You have to be willing to take on a double team if you're an interior lineman and keep holding that G if, that's what it calls for. And I feel like Colorado just needs to lock in on their defensive line. I feel like they haven't been playing to the best of their abilities. They've shown spurts of it. We've seen, D linemen that make tackles all the way down the field. We've seen D linemen that make tackles in the backfield. We've seen that they have a great pass rushing coach, a great defensive line coach, and analyst on their team. So at the end of the day, the first thing that's going to have to happen is the defensive line is going to have to be able to stop the ball carrier in the backfield. And that's by putting offensive linemen in their way, stopping the scheme, making the running back stop his feet, move, and change direction. That way the linebackers have more time to flow over into the gaps that aren't covered, and they have more time to make a tackle. And with that being said, they'd be able to stop the run if they're able to increase their pressure, or their just increase their presence on the defensive line. That's going to lead to a better back end, because the more that you have to the more that you end up not being able to run, the more you're going to have to lean to pass. And we've seen that from Colorado's offense themselves. Like, they decide, hey, we don't want to run the ball too much. We want to make sure we pass it and everything, which, has been it's been a good offensive, what do you call that?
A model, if you will.
Yeah, I guess offensive model, if you will. And it's worked out for them in the past, but when it comes to playing other teams, they have to be able to stop the run. The run is what gets them going. If a team is getting 6.6 yards a carry, all they got to do is run the ball down the field, and they do that 9-10 times. All of a sudden, they're knocking on your front door to the end zone.
Yeah, I would say Colorado's rush defense, it stood out in a way because last year they were really good against the rush. Like, obviously some teams beat them, but for the most part, they're pretty stout. But Georgia Tech, we'll go through game by game. Haynes King ran for 156 yards, and Georgia Tech as a whole ran for 320. Delaware wasn't able to get the rushing attack going, but they still ran for 30 yards. Now, granted, it was on 2.8 yards per carry, but they had some bigger plays. Houston, they sort of allowed Connor Wigman to go crazy, right? He had 83 yards. Dean Connors had 89 yards. They ran for 209 yards as a team. And then Wyoming had a freshman running back, as I click on the wrong thing. Wyoming's running back Samuel Harris ran for 126 yards on 6.6 yards per carry. So clearly there's something that needs to be changed. Now, we all know that Colorado is very man-to-man sort of dependent. Is there a possibility that switching the defense up can help slow down the run, or is that just you got to ride with your identity and hope it figures itself out?
So I will say that Colorado does have different defenses, I feel like, so they're not always man to man. However, when it comes down to just overall defensive scheme, I feel like the main thing that's going to happen, whether they switch up from man to man to playing a zone or anything like that, they decide to go with different personnel package with a nickel package, or they decide to just keep it a 4-2-5. You feel me? At the end of the day, I feel like the defensive line is really what's going to stop the run because
Okay.
they're the ones that's going to be able to both keep the edge as well as keep the interior. And when I say that, I'm saying that the interior defensive line has to make strides when it comes to being able to hold their gap. They can't be getting washed down. They can't allow the offensive line to go where they want to go. The defensive edges, I feel like they've let loose containment a few times. They've either got sucked down into the run way too far, or they just have bad eyes based on the offense, or they're just getting washed out. And honestly, like at, that is what needs to like be able to stop the run. Like the defensive line and the linebackers are where you're used to stop the run, but they also have to understand that it's really just fitting within the defensive scheme. I'm pretty sure Colorado has a defensive scheme where they have the edges sitting as outside edge rushers and contain players. If not, they have outside linebackers coming down where we've seen on multiple occasions will rush 4, rush 5, and then have 2 outside linebackers walk down, and they would be now considered the new contained players unless something were to cross their face. And at this point, it really is just the identity of Colorado. Like Colorado is in man a lot, but they also play different coverages, different packages. It's really just the execution of the defense. It depends on how well the defensive line can play and how much push they can get to be able to stop the run. Because if a running back has a full head of steam, like if we look at Jamal Haynes, one of the
Mhm.
fastest running backs in the country. Once he got ahead of steam, there wasn't much they could do. And that was simply because he just had a straight line wherever he was going.
Mhm.
He didn't really have to make but 1 or 2 cuts, and that's already when he's back in the secondary, already moving fast. So that'll it's so much, especially when it's trying to tackle these small, elusive, fast running backs. It's only so much you can do when you're in the open field and
Mhm.
you are by yourself. They have a full head of steam at you, and you're coming at an angle. You can make them cut back now, but it would have been better at the end of at the line of scrimmage.
Mhm.
You know, so the running game, I feel like that's just a front seven kind of thing that they have to deal with,
Okay.
and I feel like Colorado should be confident in going man to man because they have really good DBs in their back end. They have really good protection in the back end. The tackling still needs to be up to par. We've seen a few broken tackles here and there. I feel like they improved this week when it came to open field tackling and just getting the ball down when it's past the line.
Yeah.
Although it always can be better. I feel like it's definitely improved from last week to this week.
Yeah.
And I hopefully it improves again when we go against BYU. Speaking of BYU, they have a really good running back.
They do.
With
Yeah.
BYU has a really good running back, this is going to be the week when they go into conference play where they really have to emphasize, look, we have to stop the run. There is no way we can let this man get out because they're basically BYU's entire offense is behind this running back. He
Yeah.
sets them up to be in great field position so they can throw the ball short so they don't have to, drop their quarterback back. It's so much that goes into just stopping the run that it doesn't realize how much it affects the game. And Colorado's D line definitely has to take that into account and begin getting more pressure, interior, exterior, everywhere.
Yeah. I think you've nailed it perfectly. And it's interesting because it sounds like there's not really like a fix. It's just like, hey, we just gotta be better. And like as like simple as that is, it's obviously very difficult to just turn it on and be like, okay, now we can stop the run. Like it's not going to be that easy. But clearly, they got to work on something like tackling, contain, clogging rushing lanes, and all that to sort of figure this out. But this will be a great test against BYU. But before we get there, I wanted to talk about Kaden Salter's sort of turnaround moment, right? Because I think he was a guy that, I mean, some of the fan base had lost faith in, and gets benched, comes back, and then thrives against Wyoming. And we're going to talk about what possibly transpired behind the scenes. But first, a quick break. This episode of Locked on Buffs, it's brought to you by our sponsors over at Mazda. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS top safety picks awards than anyone else. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. So, like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Wrong button. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Monarch Money. If you're trying to save money, Monarch is the place that'll help you do it. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can leak all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. We all hate spreadsheets. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Jordan, let's talk about Kaden Salter. So, tremendous game against Wyoming. And again, and I want to say this because it is Wyoming. So, he should have had a really good game against Wyoming, but I feel like he needed it. He needed a statement game, and he delivered, right? He threw for 304 yards, 3 touchdowns, completed 64% of his passes, and then he ran for another 86 yards. So he was almost at 400 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns. And when Coach Prime was speaking with Romy Bean on, I would believe it would be Wednesday, he talked about that there was a behind the scenes sort of aha moment. And we're going to listen to the clip, and then we'll sort of dissect what possibly this could have meant, because I have my suspicions. Let me get the...
Obviously, he balled out, but I want to talk about there's something you wanted to see out of him. How did he handle that?
I don't even want to use the word bench. Detained him.
Detained him. Okay.
Yeah, because we just wanted him to see what we see.
Yeah.
And to understand how we do things here. And he got it.
Yeah.
He got it.
Did you see kind of a moment that it clicked for him?
Yeah. He met with the whole offensive staff, and we got everything out. We I'm trying to be, I'm not trying to tell you everything, but I'm trying to tell you most of the things. We got it out, and he understood the process.
Okay. So, Jordan, when you hear that and you see how Kaden performed, what does that tell you? Like, what was your takeaway from what Coach Prime was kind of saying? Because to me, it says maybe Kaden Salter wasn't doing everything he needed to behind the scenes, or maybe there was just something that had happened that sort of deterred his confidence. What did you take away from that?
So when a coach sits down and says that they wanted to talk to him about just everything and they got it out, the first thing that you're automatically going to think is, oh, he probably did something off the field or something bad. But in my instance, from what I've seen, I don't think it was anything like that. I feel like what had happened behind the scenes was he was not fully locked into the program.
Okay.
I feel like he was going about things his own way when the coaches wanted him to go about certain things in another certain capacity, whether it be watching film or whether it's, just anything of, a quarterback capacity. They know that the quarterback is the most important player when it comes to trying to lead a team. They are the ones that make every play. They're the ones that make every decision. And you have to look good both on and off the field, whether it's whatever you do. All eyes are going to be on you as the quarterback. And I feel like what they wanted him to do was accept that role and understand that role and see that you are that person that we brought you here for. We want you to be the most upstanding person you can be, whether it be on the field or off the field. And I feel like Kaden Salter is now bought into that role, and he understands what the coaches expect of him. And I feel like he is now giving the coaches exactly what they want. And that's just whether it's more film, whether it's sitting down and talking about it, whether it's, meeting with the offense more, being more of a leader, being more of a person on the field that they need. it could be a variety of factors, but at the end of the day, they have this person that they've entrusted their offense to, that they had detained, and they wanted him to see exactly what kind of program they run, and they wanted him to be bought into the program, and they wanted him to have the mindset of a quarterback going through this program, from a quarterback that they've had before in Shador and any other quarterback that comes through their program, I feel like. So I wouldn't necessarily think that, oh, it's a bad thing that they detained him, because it wasn't. I feel like Kaden, I wouldn't necessarily say needed that, but he definitely needed to see, both sides of the program. He has to be able to see, look, I can't just do my own thing and just go out here and expect to win. Because even though it was Wyoming and he had a great game, it's still hard to win any college football game, despite who you play or who you are. Like, it's a different kind of feeling. Just being able to go out there, put your head down, and just absolutely dominate an opponent isn't something that you can just wake up and do on any given day. Right. And we strive for that, but knowing that, at the end of the day, the coaches took their time and took the approach that they did, there had to be something that they felt that Kaden could improve upon. And since he was able to do that in the span of time that he had, he was able to go out in Wyoming and he commanded their offense to a 400-yard game. Yeah. And we all knew he was a great player. I honestly feel like, he did really well. We're not gonna forget Stabby. We know we got a great backup in Stabby right now, so I love it. Yeah. And Staub, he got his chance. He did his thing. I feel like he did really well. And Kaden is going to be the quarterback that they decide to go with, and I love that decision. I wish both of them could play, but we know that you need one quarterback to win. And so I'm glad that they were able to figure things out. I'm glad Kaden was able to figure things out off the field, and it just showed to his success on the field. Because if we look back at the first game versus the fourth game, and even though he didn't really play the other two games, we see a vast improvement with Kaden. We do. Yeah. And it goes to show, like, whether it was him figuring things out himself or the coaches helping him along the way, he found something that clicked, and it works for him now. And hopefully he can carry that momentum into the rest of the season in the conference play.
Yeah, I think with Kaden Salter, and you hit it on the head again. It's like sometimes you just got to realize, like, hey, I'm not where I once was. Like, I'm not at liberty. I don't get to do things X or this way or that way or whatever. And like, I think every time, especially at quarterback, right? Because if, like, at your position, for instance, say you get benched as a starter, there's still going to be opportunities for you to play, right? Like, you're still going to rotate in there. You're probably still going to get a handful of snaps. But at quarterback, it's like, I think it's a lonely feeling when you get benched and it's like, oh, shoot, like, I'm done. Like, especially for Salter, this is his last year of his college career. So he probably gets benched and he's probably like, oh, my gosh, like, this is it for me. And they're like, no, we need you. And so clearly whatever they talked about it got through to him. Whatever they talked about was clearly necessary to talk about, because obviously you don't have those sort of conversations and like pull those sort of moves if it's not needed. But it is interesting that it had to get to that point for him to have we call them come to Jesus moments, where it's just like, oh, shoot, like, this is what I need to be doing now. But I think it'll work out for the better. I think it sort of shows that, like, hey, we support you, but we also need you to do things how we are asking you. Right. And I think there is a difference between because I feel like there's this notion amongst Colorado fans that Deion Sanders doesn't like Kaden Salter. And I don't think that's the case. Right. I think Deion Sanders is just used to having a quarterback who does things exactly how he wants them. And whether or not Kaden Salter was doing those things behind the scenes or not, clearly not everything was up to Deion Sanders' standards, right? Mm-hmm. And so whatever they talked about needed to be adjusted, needed to be fixed. And it seems like Kaden Salter was willing to fix those as he popped off for 400 yards of offense. So good on him. We'll see if he could continue that success because they have a chance to make a statement this week, Jordan. And we're going to talk about what a win over a ranked team can do for a team. But first, another quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by the sponsors over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So, Are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Okay, Jordan, you actually started your Colorado career. Pretty good game, by the way, against not against BYU, against TCU. They were a ranked team. They were coming off a season that saw them finish runner-up. Right, they lost to Georgia in the title game, but they were expected to be really good. And I don't think that's how it finished, but they were expected to be good. And that game, you had 4 tackles. Not bad, not too shabby for a Colorado debut. Yeah. Talk to me about what a win over a top 25 team does for confidence of the players and confidence around the program.
So a win like that, it really was a huge statement game for us. And it was significantly more so because it was the first game that we had coming into our season in Colorado. It was Coach Prime's debut game. It was the new Colorado's debut game. There was so much hate and animosity online, but there was also so much love and support online from both sides of the spectrum when it came to Colorado. And we were the underdogs, taking 3 touchdowns down, I believe that the money line was. And it was just so much that was just going into this game. But Coach Prime had us focused on, look, we're going in here to play. We're going in here to win. That is the main reason we're coming here. And honestly, it was just inspiring once we won that game. Like at the final buzz when Shador kneeled the ball down and we ended up going out. They had some great players. They had some great plays, but we ended up, finishing the game. And it was just such a feeling, something that really boosted our confidence because we've been doubted the entire summer. We've been told, oh, we're not going to be anything. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And to come out and for the first game, win that first game against a number 2 team in the nation, basically at that point, the national champion runner-up step from the past year. That was a huge confidence boost for us. So that really showed us that the work that we were putting in mattered and it worked. And what we did truly shows the kind of people that we were. It showed the real culture and identity of the Colorado program. Travis Hunter obviously went crazy that game. I remember there was one time I can't even explain what he did. He looked off the quarterback, turned, came back on a little bended back route, and he got a pick and walked over to the TCU sideline and told him to be quiet because they were talking the entire game. And it was just like, oh yeah, this game is insane. There were so many plays that happened that game. And when we ended up winning that game, it was just such a huge confidence boost for us. It was morale boost for us because we knew that everything that we were doing over the summer mattered. And we honestly carried that momentum into the next 2 games that we won. And it was just a lot that can go through your mind at the time. If they do win this game, I do worry that, hey, you guys can't get too big-headed because that's how a lot of teams do get. And I feel like I've been on teams that have gotten too big-headed at times where we were like, oh, we won, we were doing this, we're doing that, we're this, that, and the third, only so much you can say about that. But as long as they keep the laser focus that they had going into this Wyoming game and the defense improves drastically when it comes to stopping the run in this upcoming week, I feel like Colorado will be great. The win that I feel like is very possible for them to achieve this week will definitely give them a courage boost, a morale boost, just an overall feeling of pride in themselves, especially knowing that they can go in and play a top 25 team and beat a top 25 team. That'll just lead them to more success down the road. And I feel like at the end of the day, this week was more important than the week coming up because this week really showed, okay, who's going to be our quarterback? What is our identity? What is our program? Now it's time for us to really go out there and give it our all. Like, it's time for us to show, like, we are Colorado. It's time for Kaden Salter to step up to the helm and be the leader of the team that he knows he can be. It's time for the defense to truly step up. They now have their quarterback. They know who's on the offensive side of the ball. Now it's time for the defense to know, hey, it's time for us to lock in because when we need to get the ball back to that quarterback, it's going to be on us.
Yeah. And I think, too, like, Colorado's about to play. This is our next stretch of games, Jordan. Number 25 BYU on Saturday. Then next week they played number 24 TCU at TCU. A little come circle around moment. And then the week after, number 14 Iowa State comes to town. So you win here against BYU, and I think most teams already feel this way, but I feel like there's also sometimes it helps to get proof of concept where it's like, hey, we could compete with these teams. We can be these teams. So I think a win over a top 25 BYU team totally changes the trajectory of this team this year, right? It shows like, hey, we struggled a little bit in that first month or the first few weeks, but we're back and we're ready to compete. So I think a win over BYU gets Colorado headed in the right direction at the right time, right? Because while some people view this, as me included, as the toughest stretch of their schedule, this could also be the stretch of their schedule where they make the biggest statement, where it's like, hey, we beat 2 ranked teams or 3 ranked teams, right? But in order to do that, you have to take it game by game. And right now, BYU's on the docket, and you have to slow down LJ Martin. You have to make BYU's true freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, throw the ball, and you have to sort of force him into bad situations. And I think this Colorado team is capable of doing that. It's just a matter of actually doing that. So, Jordan, I appreciate you hopping on as you do every week. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will see Jordan next week. This has been Locked on Buffs.